Chapter 11, Part 4. I was so happy for Earl. Words couldn't even express what it meant to be a part of that whole rush. And to see Earl's talent displayed like that right in front of me. I just wanted him to succeed even more, and this is why God put us in each other's life. I could help him get where he needed to go, and even though we weren't together, that might make it easier to help him get there with my positive outlook on everything. I could be that special partner that he would need to encourage him. A week later, they had the paperwork ready for Earl to sign. He got his lawyers that the business partners got him for him to check it over. Earl received a 22,000 advance, and I said, "Holy shit, you're rich." The first thing he wanted to do with his money was to take Xavier shopping. Even though I kept Xavier fresh, Earl really went out. After that, everything just started moving too fast. The manager asked me if I could come with him to look for an apartment for Earl, and I asked why. He said, "Well, Earl said you're the only one that knows what he likes." I felt like this was a setup, but whatever. After like 3 days of looking, I found something I thought Earl would love. Earl knew I would pick the perfect house for him. What I didn't realize was that Earl would use this as a way to get me back into his life. It's not that I didn't love Earl. The issue was that I had gotten used to being a single mom and being without him. My only mission in life was to be a good mother and a great provider for my child. Due to Earl's trust issues, even though he was rising to the top, he felt like he could never trust anyone. With the exception of his grandmother, myself, and his aunts and uncles, he let very few people into his comfort zone. Although I was there for Earl despite our breakup, I wasn't pressing for a rekindle of our relationship. All I ever wanted was the best for him. You see, I never knew the rapper DMX. I only knew Earl Simmons. I felt like although the label and his industry people liked me, they really didn't want me in the picture. In fact, I actually had tried to move on with my life. When he left, I began dating someone that worked from the MTA and tried to establish my life without Earl. It wasn't love at first sight. In fact, it was unfair to him. I still had this void in my life. I couldn't fool him or myself, so I ended the relationship. Shortly after I found the house, Earl called me and asked me to meet him at my Yonkers home. My sister, who was living there with me at the time, let him in. After I arrived to the house, I came in and saw this look of concern on his face. He asked me could we talk, so I asked him to have a seat. Earl explained to me that he still loved me very much and he wanted to have another chance at our relationship. He went on to explain how he knew I had started dating someone else and was trying to move on. However, he himself had not gotten to that place yet. Ultimately, he wanted our family back and he was really willing to work at it. DMX had come from a broken home. All of his brothers and sisters had different fathers. That's not what he wanted for us. He wanted to raise a family and establish that foundation with me. He wanted all his children to be by me. This was always his dream. How could I say no? I mean, I loved this man. After thinking about it for a couple of days, I called him at the studio and let him know I was willing to take a chance on our love. He was ecstatic. Earl was getting money and things were changing. His career was taking off. He wasn't on drugs any longer. He said that his love for me had made him stronger. I wanted to believe it. He was my best friend and I wanted the best for him. If I was with him romantically or not. Earl had signed with a major record label and the money was coming in. He was on tour with Mace, Locks, Lil Kim, Ice Cube, and Ja Rule. We were still living in the hood, but his music was on the radio. He was a hood celebrity. He went from the most hated thug to the most loved rapper. DMX had very few friends, but New York embraced him. So it was different from how our lives used to be. He was formerly known as a robber, a hood thug, but he instantly became the neighborhood saint. Those that used to hate him now embraced him. Earl loved it. The reality set in that we were going to have to move soon. He asked me to quit my job and depend on him, but I couldn't imagine not working. He had gotten an advance of 22,000, and you would have thought we were rich. I was still working, but money was coming in hand over fist. The funny thing was that I was watching Earl rise to instant fame. No matter how much success he had, I still want to I still didn't want to quit working. I was seeing his stardom right before my eyes. This time it was real. He wasn't depending on the nickel and dime money for tapes. He wasn't robbing people anymore. He was actually making a transition to becoming successful. In my mind, he had a few different instances where he seemed that he was rising to the top. He had a few singles that were hot all over New York City, but I couldn't believe that he was actually going to be famous and rich. The label was telling Earl that he shouldn't let the public know that he was in a relationship. They started having all this input in his personal life, but X wasn't having it. They wanted him to be portrayed as a sex symbol. It was hard for him to grasp that concept. I was hurt, but I wanted the best for him. If the label thought that would make him big and famous, I was not going to stand in his way. Earl was sadistic from the beginning. Loyalty to him was everything. I knew he loved me. He told the label that there was no way he was going to portray himself as a single man. His loyalty to me gave me a stronger sense of being. I wanted a real family, our versions of the Cosbys. I never knew anything but the inner city life. I came from a broken home, but one thing we had and have always had was love. We were stronger than the industry, stronger than the addiction, and stronger than the outsiders.